Here we go then, it's the Cade Sport Apex Mountains course, 15 kilometres long, through the mountains. Not too steep on the gradients though, it's general sort of 2 to 2.5% maximum sort of gradients as we go up through the valleys. Absolutely stunning scenery. This is the start line. We'll let all the others go off first, give them a bit of head start. You can see that geyser, when I say geyser, the water spraying up just on the left there. As we start off, you see the geyser spraying up and the wind blowing the water across the road there. Quite spectacular. Let's just take a look at that from above. You can see the water sort of landing as the geyser spurts on the road in little lumps there. Quite spectacular. It won't, as realistic as it is, you won't get sprayed with water in the real race as we take that little aerial view. Just messing around with the cameras a little bit on this one to see what we could do in the preview. I think I came to the conclusion that most of it is probably best from the ground level, from the view that you would actually see in the race, mainly because as a preview you kind of know how you want to know how to perceive it when you get there. And as we can see, that sort of hazy, watery sort of effect going across the bottom of the valley here in the Apex Mountains. I'm in Pro Power. The races that we run, we tend to ask everybody to come in Pro Power. This equalises them out, so it gives the fast guys a bit more of a challenge they might otherwise get, and the slower guys the chance of winning. So everybody wins, so to speak. Well, they don't actually all win. The amount of effort you put in, as we see this spray coming across from the geysers, you can see one of those geysers just on the right hand side disappearing out. There's another one there. Take another on the aerial views and see the stunning water. You can see one of those geysers on the left there as we go up out of the little geyser area, and geysers, fountains, whatever you want to call them. Just a little bit of a side view of what it all looks like from the side. This is it's quite nice and it makes for good pictures, but unfortunately not much use when you're riding because you can't see what's coming up ahead, and if you do have a sharp bend that you need to negotiate, it's not going to be much use. So going back to this, there's not likely to be much crashing on this course. You can see these are sweeping bends. If you look down at the speedometer, the red only coming up a little bit at the side as we go around this bend. Just watch the red on the right hand side of the speedometer. It's hardly anything there, a big white gap, so that's the cushion we've got. The green section is how fast we're going, white is what we can do without crashing, red is what if we go into we'll crash. So you can see there was plenty of scope there. I don't think anybody's going to really crash on this course because its bends are quite wide. You can see the sweeping bend here again, hardly any red on the speedometer, so quite a comfortable course in that respect. It is of course mountainous, just the gradual gradients as we go up the valleys though, some nice speedy descents, and even the descents, which can sometimes catch you out on corners, don't offer too much of a test when it comes to the bends. So we're 1.8 kilometres into the 15 kilometres of the first lap as we go under the bridge. Still wooded here, lower slopes. You can see the snow on the mountains as we move ahead and going through these rocks. You can see the snow on the mountains in the distance. Obviously as we get higher you'll see more snow, so look forward to that. Nice fitting winter rider. Would it make you feel cool in the summer? Who's to say? And some little bollards on the right there. I would imagine actually if I was in the other lane you probably need to steer around those, so just beware of any obstacles like that if you are in the other lane. Now bear in mind I have got the steering here. I've got the phone strapped to the handlebars of my bike, and I've got a riser that moves so that I can steer using the handlebars. The steering only takes you across the road. You choose where you are across the road. You don't need to steer around the actual bends, but this does become important for getting around obstacles. And sometimes other riders, if you're just behind another rider and you're not doing enough to get around them, you're going to have to steer around, otherwise it will just block you behind the rider and you'll be stuck. So steering quite useful for getting around people and other riders. No problem with this instance. The rider we're about to overtake clearly on the other side of the road, so not offering any barrier to us as we go through 2.8 kilometers. You can see the mountains getting ever closer. We're still on a flat gradient. You can see the profile of where we're riding on the if you look up to the top left, you see a map of the route. All those blobs are individual riders or groups of riders, with the yellow blob. Everybody else is blue. Below that you see the profile, and you can see it's almost about halfway through the lap you start to rise up into the mountains. So the first bit flat as we go through this little settlement in the mountains here, industrial units and a few houses and other little offices and businesses that obviously service those who have to operate for whatever reason in this mountainous area. Very beautiful it is too, though. More mountains than the village, I say, but great scenery as well. Cade do pride themselves in the scenery. When you go in, depending on the power your computer's got, you may or may not choose high or low graphic quality. Obviously, if your computer is going to struggle to cope with the write and all the input, you will choose one of the lower resolutions, and that will free up capacity to make sure you don't get dropouts and other little malfunctions along the way. If you've got a super duper gaming computer, go for high quality resolution. We thoroughly recommend it. Still wooded here. This is anyone that's ever cycled in mountainous areas knows that the mountain climbs tend to come in little stages. You go through the woods, you get above the tree line, and it gets ever more rocky and less green, shall we say. And there's almost a sort of when you're on the lower slopes, which I find quite nice, there's almost this eagerness though to get to the higher slopes, because you know that you sort of accomplish something once you get out of the trees. But at the moment, still in the lower slopes, I say slopes, you can see there's no gradient. When the gradient pops up, it will probably be under the words West London VR towards the bottom of your screen, so bottom just on the left hand side of your screen. Now I'm going to hit the back of this bunch of riders, and I've got a difficult situation here because they've suddenly swung over and I've got blocked in. So I'm trying to use the steering here, and you can see it juddering. That's because I'm trying to steer into the guy on my left who's blocking me, but I can't get around the guy in front, and I'm trying all sorts of tricks to try and get around these two, but the guy in the front and the guy at the side are blocking me. So what am I going to do about this? Well, I've got braking in Cade Sport. If you touch spacebar, or if you're using the phone app, press the brake on there, you can slow down and get out, and that's exactly what I did there. Put the brakes on, slowed down, got out, went on the other side of the road, and sped up again so I could get around. So I lost time by being in that group of riders, being hemmed in and boxed in. But this is why steering and braking is part of the skill on Cade Sport. Now these guys have got a left-hand bend, they're going to swing over in my way, so I now have to go around them on the outside. And if I'd been a little bit earlier, I would have cut through on the inside before they changed lanes. But safely around those guys, no such hold-ups as we go past more water. Still on the flat here, as you can see, no gradient to the left of the speedometer. The gradient only pops up when you're actually going up or down, so if there's nothing there, it's zero. Now I've decided to steer onto the inside lane here, even though there's a rider coming up, just because I can see ahead that the bend is veering to the left, and by being on the inside I will actually gain time and do it slightly quicker. Nevertheless, I need to move out a little bit just to get around this guy. You can have autopilot as an option, so you don't need to do that sort of steering, but and it will take you to the inside of the bends automatically when you're approaching a bend. But I quite like the steering, and I'm using it here, so autopilot is off and I'm doing all the steering from side to side of the road manually. As I say though, I'm choosing the sort of line that I'm taking, so you can see the line. I'm just sort of halfway between the white lines there on the left hand side, and it stays there. It doesn't cut in and take the inside line on that bend, as you can see from this aerial shot. It leaves me on that line unless I steer it otherwise. If you're on autopilot, that will automatically go towards the left hand inside lane there. Just chasing up, catching another bunch of riders, so change the camera angle to make sure that I can work out where I've got to go with the steering, because we've seen what happens if you get caught in a group. You do struggle to get out of it, and in the end I had to brake, come out the back of it, and then accelerate and go around it. But nice little line here, so it's easy to overtake these guys, and the line I'm on suits it. I'm going to hit one rider at the back there, so I'm going to have to go out slightly, just go round there, and then I can cut in again as soon as I'm past. Although there's more riders to come, so it might be worth just sitting here, because it's not a particularly tight bend coming up or anything like that, and I'm not losing a lot from the position I'm in vis-a-vis the inside of the bend. they're all stringing out into a line now, so that's going to make it easier to get by. I probably should be moving over a little bit towards the left, but in fact we've got a right hand bend suddenly coming up now, so it's better to be on the right. Those guys have taken all the good positions, so I'm going to have to sort of be on a little bit on the outside just to get around them. These two here riding side by side. I'm probably in about the best position I could be. Probably one more, a little bit more to the right would probably work, but I'm as good as it gets. Goes around those two quite easily as we clock up 6.7 of the 15 kilometers of this race. Now you can see I'm on the gradient appearing to the left of the speedometer under the word London towards the bottom. That was 2%. It's leveled out again now, and if you look at the profile up in the top left alongside the word cycling, you can see we're just onto that mountain climb now, back up to 2% as we go over this bridge, and we overtake another cyclist. Now we can see that it's beginning to get a bit snowy here. I did promise you some snow as we got higher up, and you're beginning to see the snow sprinkled on the green there. Hopefully it'll get thicker as we go up. Still on this 2% gradient, so it's quite steady. It's not hard, and if you are riding in Pro Power, you will be given extra watts, so this 2% will be quite comfortable. Yeah, slightly slower than we were going before. We were above 40 before, hitting about 36, 37 at the moment. This is only a demonstration ride, so not in racing conditions. You can go faster. Get the line right just as smoothly goes past those without any hiccups, and take another aerial view. As you can see just how that water is a straight drop from the road, isn't it? So no danger of my avatar falling down the rocks, I don't think. There's no bends here, but great scenery, and the road following the river up the valley, which again, if you've ever ridden in mountains, you'll know that basically the way the geography works is that roads go up the valleys, and then eventually little roads spin off them and go over the coals, and eventually the road going up the valley will go over coal. But this is typical mountain riding, going up alongside the river, weaving your way through the mountains. So we're up to 7.8 now. We're over halfway along this course, getting snowier and snowier. Still green by the side of the road though. 1% here, easing out a little bit, so not too tough. You can see we're about halfway, probably more than halfway up the slope if you look at the profile on the top left underneath the map. Now we're coming into a more snowy zone, and you can see there's actually some snow across the road here. So we get through that. Keep a straight line so you don't skid. I don't think Cade actually will make you skid if you don't take a straight line on it, but you never know. I didn't try it. Certainly if you're outside, if you ride in a straight line, you'll probably be fine on ice, but it's the moment you try and turn or brake that it all goes horribly wrong. So we're into the snowy area now, and you can see by the profile we're nearly at the top of the climb. So we're going to go through the coal, I would imagine, and down the other side very, very shortly towards the finish. 6.6 kilometers still to go as we go through the snow zone. Getting very snowy now. One little slip there. I'm sure that was just a little bit of my internet connection dropping out. Now here come another batch of riders, so I need to get my line right. They're turning left, so where I'm at is probably the right thing to be, because they're all autopiloted and will be on the inside of that left hand bend. So just being on the outside of that white line, it's not very efficient at the moment because I'm obviously clocking up a slightly longer route going around that left hand bend. But when I get to the riders, as you can see, they're all on the left hand side of the road, left of the white broken line, so I should sail past those quite smoothly. It's still rocky here, isn't it? It's still rocky and snowy, and we haven't quite got over the top, but I think very, very shortly we're going to start the descent. So around these guys who are riding three abreast, I might have to shift out a little bit for these guys because they keep pushing one of the riders out across the white line, but we shall see. They've got a better line now because it is a left hand bend, but I need to stay where I am because where I am is going to get me around these guys. Now we are on the downhill now, and you can see the negative percent gradient is minus 5%. We've dropped very, very quickly, and it's pulling the speed up, touching well over 50 kph there, and already we're out of the snow because we dropped so much with that sharp descent, and you can see, go up to the profile, you can see how sharp that is, and it's minus 2% now. So the first little bit very, very fast, but again, nothing too fast here that you're going to hit any bends at speed that will make you crash. 47 kph, which is good. Probably not going fast enough because I'm getting caught by these guys. We'll have to see what happens. And a little bit of struggle. You see that juddering there? That's because we're clashing. I was trying to go to the inside and he wasn't letting me, and hence the judder. But I got over to the right hand side for this bend ahead of the other guys. Now I'm slightly off the road here. Now I'm not sure that made any difference, and I think this road is set. And I'm trying to get off that gravel, but again, every time I try, I'm just bashing into the other guy and it's not letting me get off that gravel. So here I push a little bit harder, try and get ahead of him. 48, 50 kph, just get out loose, and that enables me to get free and get back on the tarmac. As I say, I don't know whether riding on that gravel on the tarmac makes a difference to your speed. It may do, it may not, but quite clearly it's designed to ride on either. So 44 kph, we're doing good speeds now, 4.6, and if you look at the profile, we're getting down towards the bottom and it levels out. It's there's no gradient there now, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, and it's just the 4.4 kilometers to the end now, which is going to be fairly benign. There's a little bit of a lump, but nothing too serious. So we're going to say do the full 15 laps on this, and you come back to the start, which is because it's a loop, that's where we started in the first place. So you can go around as often as you like. We might for example, doing a 45 kilometer race would be 3 laps, and you can configure it from there. But we're just going to do the one in this demo as we come up to another bunch of riders all riding on the gravel, you'll notice there. And as I say, I don't know if that makes a difference or it doesn't to your speed. I wasn't totally aware of it, but the one thing is I'm going to overtake those at 41 kph, so obviously going slower than that as we dip under 4 kilometers to go in this ride around the Apex Mountains. You can see the hazy sort of water effect there coming up again. Remember those geysers and those springs from the beginning of the race? It's probably something to do with that effect, I would imagine, as we take another aerial view amongst the rocks and the trees to see where we're going. Lakes galore. They do have some great lakes in these real life Cade, say real life, as opposed to fantasy courses. The real life courses on Cade have some great scenery, and they do like mountains and lakes, and more power to their elbow. I'm pretty pleased pretty pleased with what they've dished up so far. And I do believe at the time of recording this that there are more courses to come, so I eagerly await more courses from Cade. Coming down to 3.2 kilometers left, we're obviously down in the valley now, as you can see by the yellow blob. There is a little bit of a climb though here. I did say there's one little lump, 1% here at the moment. It's not particularly testing in race conditions though, that might be harsh, but again we go back to everybody's in pro power, so the slower riders will have a bit of a boost, and the strong riders are strong already. Will just have more competition than they're used to, is the nub of it. 38.8 kilometers per hour, so 1% having a slight effect on the speed we're riding at the moment, under 3 kilometers to the end. Just messing around with the steering a little bit there. The bend sweeping to the right, so I'd really be better off on the right hand side. I'm not really, I guess, paying attention to this. I'm just, I think in a race you might be well advised to keep your avatar to the inside of bends, because it seems to me that it does buy you time in the race, and I'm not sure that it really makes the corner harder, but my experience has been that I think where you are on the bend, either on the outside or the inside, doesn't affect whether you crash. It really is down to the braking and the slowing down into it as well. So we recommend very much you either sort of freewheel and slow down into the bend, and possibly brake into the bend, and just tap as you go around the bend, just to make sure that the speed doesn't just go that little bit too fast and into the red, but we certainly think braking as you go into the bend is the optimum way to get yourself down to the right speed, and then just tapping it as you go round. Accelerate out. There are examples where I've accelerated out too early and crashed, but I think the general rule is don't start riding when you're out of the bend. Start riding before you get out of it. Down to 1.8 kilometers to go, and we're certainly in the valley now, as you can see by the profile on the top. Just underneath there it says lap 1, and you can see there's 1.7 kilometers to go. We've done 13.4. Ignore the times on there because I had been doing some other riding in the on Cade Sport, so some of the detail on there is not entirely true. And the other thing is I did mess around playing with the cameras before I started, so I've edited some of that out, so the time that it's showing of 20 minutes is in excess of what we've actually done on this particular ride, because I've edited out sitting around on the starting line playing with the cameras, seeing what they do. I didn't actually learn it all correctly, because when I got to the end of this I tried to finish off by filming from the finishing line, but it didn't quite work out as I expected, as you'll see in a moment. It was just 1 kilometre to go, but nevertheless it doesn't really matter, because you've seen the start line before, because we were stuck there at the beginning before I started riding. 2 more riders to go. In the top right there, you can only really see my name, and I've configured it that way. You can have up to about 13 riders around you, but you'll see from the data up above that I've just got into 7th position, started 89th, so we've overtaken quite a few of the other riders on the course. 7th position at the moment. I think it only measures it from the start line, so in a race it will be the whole race, but I think when I was doing this, I'm just riding round casually, I think the number probably goes back to 0 or something at the start line, but we can find out any moment now, because it's only 400 meters to the start finishing line, 300 meters now, and you can see that haze with the springs and geysers that we were talking about early on in the race. And in fact you can see the finishing line there. It is the barrier over the road at the end of this straight. So that's pretty much what a lap looks like, because everything from now on you can see here or otherwise. That's a view from the finishing line. Unfortunately it's facing not at me coming, but what it would look like if you were sat on the start line. This is what it looks like across the start line, so you can see me finishing there, and some other riders now coming up to the finishing line too, and that's me the other side of the finishing line. So I suppose we did just catch myself going through the start finishing line, so I'll go back into that water. Fantastic course. Hope you enjoy it as much as we have. There's some of the details just to remind you about it again. Bye.